No, all quiet. That's good. So, as we said at the beginning, we've got a guest speaker, John Knoll. Some of you will have heard him already. You'll have picked up it's a non-English person. He's from Canada, and he's going to come and talk to us about surviving electric shock. This is another topic that we were asked to include from our surveys we've done with you guys. And the easy thing to think of with electric shock is burns and internal burns potentially. John's going to talk to you about something that's a lot less known about and maybe very thought-provoking. So over to you, John, if you can, whether you want to just say a couple of words or go straight into the video and then answer questions after.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to go into the video and then I'll answer questions later. I don't like crying, but I do cry a lot when I do this, so we've pre-recorded it for certain reasons. So I'm going to play this video, and then if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Let me just throw the screen on. Oh, I need to stop sharing because I didn't add my audio. Add the audio. Throw the screen on. Can everybody see the presentation right now? And I'm going to click it. Let me know if you have audio happening.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is John Knoll.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you for joining us today. Were you hearing audio? I was hearing this weird clicking sound in my background.
No, I've got audio.
I can hear audio, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll restart and then we'll go from there. Thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is John Knoll, and thank you for joining us today and taking the time out of your day to learn about my experiences with electrical shock and electrical injury. What is electrical injury? I'm going to explain that today. It has been called the invisible iceberg injury by some. And that is because you don't see the effects of low voltage electrical injury. And I'm here to hopefully educate everyone and get them to pass on the knowledge that electrical shocks have long. My background is I am a former master electrician and a professional electrical contractor. I was the youngest chapter president of my electrical contracting association. I was the youngest professional electrical contractor to receive the status, and unfortunately I am the youngest professional electrical contractor to retire the status. And that's all because of my exposure to electrical shock, because when I got into the trade, I was taught it was just part of the work we do. I was taught that we're not allowed to turn off panels or sources, that the shock, if it doesn't stop your heart, that's where it stops. And that's not the truth. Low voltage electrical shock has long-term delayed consequences, and I'm here to educate you on all aspects of the injury and tell you about my experiences with it and how it altered my life forever. So I wish I would have seen this type of warning sign getting into the trade. Danger, low voltage. Exposure to electrical current is known to cause the following: physiological symptoms, neurological symptoms, and physical symptoms. But I wasn't. I was told that if you get a shock and it doesn't stop your heart, that's where it stops, and that is not true. And I'm going to explain this injury in depth. So what is low voltage? Well, according to the Canadian Electrical Code to 2021, low voltage is any voltage exceeding 30 volts but not exceeding 1,000 volts. And that is in line with the medical definition of low voltage. So what is sequela or sequelae? Well, sequela is the singular and sequelae is the plural. A morbid condition following or occurring as a consequence of another condition or event. A sequela, any condition or state that follows a disease, disorder, or injury, especially one that is a consequence of it. a complication. The term most often used is the plural form, sequelae. Now let's define electrocution and electric shock. Many assume that when you receive a shock, you are electrocuted. No, electrocution is when you die. The definition of electrocution is death, where electrical shock is the sum of immediate and delayed pathophysiological response of living tissue to a current of electricity of sufficient magnitude to induce abnormal sensations. There are two possible consequences of electrical injury. The person either survives or dies, and this lines up with the definitions of electrocution and electric shock. So where did the research start in my country? Well, this gentleman, Dr. Joel Fish, started the research. These videos, all the resources, they will be provided at the end of the slides, and you'll be able to watch these on yourself. But as Dr. Joel Fish said, I myself in the beginning didn't believe this existed. Because we are just starting to learn about this. The research is about 30 years old, and a lot of the research done prior is incorrect. It's when these facilities, the first is the Sunnybrook Hospital out of Ontario, started noticing that there was a percentage of young men, all with exposure to electrical current, seeking medical help for the same issues, and nobody was able to understand. So Dr. Joel Fish and his team started the research, and the next person I'm going to introduce you to, Dr. Mark Yeske, after Dr. Joel Fish took a role at the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, took over his work. Dr. Mark Yeske is the past head of research at Sunnybrook, and he's the predecessor to Dr. Joel Fish. He is now the Vice President of Research at the Hamilton Health Sciences and a Chief Scientific Officer. Now, Dr. Mark Yeske has been caring for burn patients and is conducting research in the field of burns for nearly 25 years. He is a global leader in burn care, research, and education. And according to Expertscape, he's the second highest ranked expert in burns in the world. The contributions of Dr. Yeske's research are numerous and encompass all aspects of burn care and treatment. Specifically, he changed the treatment of metabolic and inflammatory response after burn injury, poor or excessive scarring, and production of tissue-engineered skin. Yes, he has developed a way to, with a handheld printer, print brand new skin onto burn patients without having to create another wound. And this is our Canadian expert. Now, the United States team is headed up by a Dr. Lee through the Chicago Electrical Trauma Research Institute. Dr. Lee is a past president of the Midwest Association of Plastic Surgeons, is regularly selected as one of America's top plastic surgeons by Chicago Magazine and national publications. He's a member of the American Surgical Association, National Academy of Engineering, International Academy of Medical and Bioelectrical Engineering, MacArthur Fellow, and Fellow of the American Association for the Advancements of Science. Not only is he a Harvard graduated surgeon, he is also an MIT graduated bioelectrical engineer. Now, if you look at the resources, you will see the Cetri IEEE video where Dr. Lee and Dr. Pliskin really explain this injury well. Now, I'm going to start talking about my experiences as I identify what the mechanisms of this injury are. Despite popular belief, it's not thermal burns. Thermal burns are secondary. So the conclusion of electrical injury part 1 mechanisms talks about electroporation. Electroporation has only recently been identified as a primary cause of neurological injury following electrical exposure and is incompletely understood. Other mechanisms of injury may also be present, such as the breakdown of cytoskeleton due to excessive intercellular calcium or from systematic alterations of the HPA. Of particular interest is how seemingly remote electrical exposure affects the brain. Furthermore, the impact of electrical injuries on the developing nervous system of a child is not known. Additional longitudinal studies are sorely needed to determine the progression of electrical injuries over time, because they are a delayed injury. They take 1 to 5+ years to fully manifest after receiving a shock. It goes on to say that the 4 mechanisms of cellular injury by electricity are presently known. They are the direct effects of the current, thermal burns, mechanical injuries due to falls, and electroporation. The passage of current through tissues can cause intense muscle contractions. Current pathways, including the chest, can be life-threatening as a result of induced astral and/or apnea. Electricity may also be converted into heat, resulting in varying degrees of burns, particularly associated with high voltage electrical injury. Loss of consciousness is possible, which may lead to a fall and mechanical blunt force trauma to the head. Finally, electricity can directly cause pore formation in the lipid bilayers that form cell membranes, a process called electroporation. And this is what causes the delay in the sequelae. Now, my history as an electrician, I got into the trade and very quickly I was taught to work live. I was taught to work live without gloves. I wasn't even introduced to what rubber insulated gloves with leather protectors were until after my apprenticeship was over, after I had ran a company. My first pair of rubber insulated gloves with leather protectors I got after the sequelae had developed and I understood what this injury was. So I want to, number one, identify the easiest way to prevent this injury is rubber insulated gloves with leather protectors. You need shock protection. Another great way to avoid this injury is proper shoes that are insulated. So again, getting back to my story, early on, I was taught to touch live current that, you know, we used to play games. We were in parkades. I remember working in these apartments and you were plugging, you were switching, you had all these young men. We were, you know, installing plugs while somebody was installing breakers. They would turn the power on, you would receive a shock, or you'd be putting up a light fixture and somebody would walk through the room. It could be a joke or it could be by accident. They would turn on the switch. And that was how I was taught. And you became very numb to the fact that electrical shock is dangerous, because once you got shocked a few times and it didn't stop your heart and everyone said, oh, that was the worst that could happen, then why wear gloves? Why even take the precautions on 120? Nobody cares. Well, we need to care, because as early on as 2 years after getting into the trade, I started exhibiting the sequelae. I had nervous breakdowns, I had arthritis, diffuse pain, I had fatigue, I had hyperarousal, and that sounds very counterintuitive, but it's a cycle. It is a pattern of the sequelae that develops. So let's get more into electroporation and what is electroporation. I have a quick video because electroporation is commonly used in gene therapy. It is used to open up the pores in the cells so medicine can get in. Well, let's take a look at that process. Now, this is a video that I'm going to play for everyone.
Electroporation is a technique based on the application of a high voltage electrical current to cells over a very short period of time. This pulsating current causes small channels or micropores to be formed in the membranes, through which the molecules in the surrounding area are able to pass. Transdermal or transcutaneous electroporation, given that skin is a lipid barrier and electrical current is able to open up transient and reversible pores in the skin. These pores enable the substances administered by this method to pass through.
Well, what happens when we receive a shock in the field and it's not a low current that is introduced through our system, because our body runs off of millivolts and milliamps. That is 1/1000th of a volt or an amp. And when we receive a shock at over 100 volts, that magnitude is crazy. Well, when there is no solution and it is not a controlled environment, what ends up happening is we create channelopathies in our cells. And those fluids that are outside of our cell that we don't want to get in, the sodium ions and everything else, they end up infiltrating those cells. And that can disrupt how the body transmits its signals. And worse off is if those pores don't seal up, they can eventually kill the cell. And when that cell dies, it can deplete nutrients from other cells. And it leads to catastrophic cell death. And that is where my story comes in. So, as I had mentioned, as early as 2 years into the trade, I have medical reports stating that, again, I had nervous breakdowns, I was getting forgetful, I was feeling like I had arthritis, I had diffuse pain in my hands, in my feet, in my wrists, in my ankles, in my shoulders, in my neck. I had migraines. That list, everything was in it. And I just wish I would have known then, because what happened later is in 2015, I was working in a retail store. We were doing LED retrofit, where you remove the ballasts from fluorescent fixtures and you hardwire the lights to line voltage. And as I was reaching up in a box after I thought I had saved out the single circuit and not killed the entire panel, my finger touched something, my pointer finger. And at the same time, the web on this side of my index finger was leaned up against a light fixture. I was in a position like this. And that is the first and only time that I have been held. Now, if anybody's been held, it is one of the scariest things you'll ever experience. Everyone talks about what would life be if I was trapped in my body and not able to move and I was just in my mind. Well, while I was on top of the ladder, I lost full control of my body. I was paralyzed. I could not breathe. I could not blink. I could not move. And I felt my back warming up and my chest warming up. And I prayed to die. I truly prayed to die. And fortunately enough, I didn't. My legs gave out and I fell off my ladder and I fell onto the man wash. And I picked myself up and I drove myself to the hospital after closing down the site. And I had a couple tests run, and then I was released. They said, go to the university hospital. That's usually where the electrical or electrocutions go. They still don't understand that the definition of electrocution is death. So the next morning after I woke up, I ended up going, and they said, there's nothing we can do for you. And that was my experience. Well, unfortunately, 2 years later, I was walking in Vegas, and this cell death happened. And my nervous system, parts of my nervous system, your pain epicenter that controls all of your muscles, started dying. It was the most intense pain I have ever felt in my life. It was like my legs were being crushed and ripped apart while they were lit on fire. I had the most intense myofascial pain of my life. My legs started gating outwards. They started twisting and they started contracting, all the muscles fighting against every other muscle. And for the life of me, the only thing that could relieve that pain was really heavy myofascial deep tissue release. So I was in Las Vegas, another country, and this horrific event happened. And I ended up waiting to get home. And when I got home, I had done enough myofascial release and I just had lots of pain in my legs. My doctors didn't understand what was happening. And they just said it was in my head. They didn't understand. Then I was in Canmore several months later, and I was rehabilitating myself. I was doing a lot of yoga because, again, you have to lengthen those muscles after. One of the symptoms is contraction, which is the stiffening, hardening of your ligaments, tendons, and muscles. And that's due to the nervous system death. And once that nervous system dies and it repairs itself, it doesn't repair itself right. And this is very well explained in the IEEE SETRI video. But you start to have misfires, and those misfires keep this muscle contraction happening. And that is why one of the best things I can do is massages and yoga along with chiropractors, because of that skeletal issue. You really, really have to focus on altering your lifestyle. Maybe we should focus on altering our work style first, because you don't want this injury. So this is where this sign should be posted on every job site. Exposure to electrical current is known to cause the following: depression, PTSD, insomnia, memory loss, headaches, chronic pain, weakness, contraction, poor coordination, dizziness, generalized pain, exhaustion, reduced range of motion, joint stiffness, contracture. How many of you here have received electrical shocks and identify with 3 or more of these symptoms? There's probably a reason why. And that is, again, why I'm here. Hopefully educating you so you can educate the next generation of workers, so you can prevent the current generation from receiving this injury. And we need to develop a solution. The solution should be increased electrical safety programs. Now, this is a slide I developed for my province, but we need to develop safety programs that address shock. In my province, education at technical training is coming in worldwide. We need to educate our youth before they get into the trade or as they get into the trade about the long-term consequences. We need to raise awareness in healthcare and in construction. We also need to start advocating for workers and the injured, because this is an invisible injury. One of the worst parts of this injury is that it's delayed and there's no scans that can identify the injury. So if you have it, good luck getting help. I'm diagnosed by those experts that I showed you today, both teams in Canada and the United States. And I am still in going on 4-year fight to receive the proper care I need from my workers' compensation. And it's easier just to wear the gloves, guys, honestly. Wear your gloves. Take your time, lock out, tag out. That's important. If you don't have to work live, kill the power. There is no reason for working live. And we need to start raising funding for more research. You know, there is teams not only in Canada and the United States, there's teams in Japan, there's teams in Europe, in Poland. There's research happening all over the world, and we just need to increase awareness. So here's a picture of the nervous system. And I put it in context with a poem I wrote when I was in my darkest, lowest states. Current cowboy. Now in Alberta, a cowboy is considered a stoic, you know, a tough man. And there's a saying, when you receive a shock, you're riding the current. So at my darkest time, when I was diagnosed already trying to receive help, and they started calling Dr. Yeski a self-professed expert and saying it was all in my head, this was a poem I wrote because as relevant as it was then, it is still now. I rode the current and received the shocks. I was told this is work. I was taught to receive that shock. A decade later, I could not walk. Now I dream of death. I pray for relief of the pain I wake with, of the pain when I sleep. The feeling of shocks continue, fingers, toes, and feet. I sleep in pain, hips, knees, back. I wake in pain, chest, legs, and neck. Why, I ask. When will it be over, I pray. I find the answer, but no one believes. To understand the truth, but no one chooses to accept. When will the pain be over, I ask. Not today, I am told. This is what we're willing to accept. I think of my family. The pain doesn't care. I think of life and dream of death. For I am a current cowboy with not much left. Now, I'm going to end this with just identifying this picture. Our body is just made up of nerves, bones, and tissue. And the nervous system is so fragile. When you strip all the bones and muscles away, this is what we're left with. Little tiny wires. And they all lead up to our brain. So the next time that you are thinking about working live, please remember all of this. And remember that our system runs off of milliamps and millivolts. And the next time you receive a shock might be the last time you live a life without depression and pain. So please take this message and share it. Hello.
Thanks for that, John. So, as we said, it's an area that is probably surprising. People were probably thinking that we were going to be talking about burns and the like, but it's certainly something that puts things into your head. So, thanks for doing that, John. I'm just going to open up and see if anyone has any questions.
John, thank you for sharing. My name is Michael.
Oh, okay, Michael. Yep.
John, thank you for sharing. My name is Michael. I'm also Canadian. I will take your message to people. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you.
I'd just like to say I think you're extremely brave, John. I feel like what you're doing is sharing your experiences with everybody else, because it's not something that's normally shared. It's gone unseen. People are hospitalised, and obviously the long-term effects are something that I assume are relatively unknown. And I think what you're doing here is really shining a light and leading the way. As an example to us all, about recognising the dangers of electricity. You can't see it, but you can definitely feel it. And yeah, honestly, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think for myself, John, thank you for working with us and collaborating in this area, creating that awareness, maturity with us and our business. So once again, we really do appreciate it. You've been kind enough to share a lot of external resources and that, which we will ensure that we share with the rest of the community on that for your story. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys letting me take most of the time to share this, because it's something that I think needs to be, understood. It's easy to prevent, and we just really need to educate the next generation, because this doesn't have to happen.
Thanks, John. And the links you kindly sent us as well, we'll put these out on a slide pack. So if you want to go and have a look at it, everyone, brief more to your teams. There is a lot more resources that John has provided. Like we said, this video is recorded as well. So if you think it'd be really useful to share with your electrical teams, then yeah, there's all these resources here.
Okay, I think we're just coming to the end of time. Just a couple of housekeeping notices. We will be putting in next year's dates for next year's COPs, probably at the beginning of January or at the end of this month. So we'll be sticking to the same format of 4 in the year. The other thing I was would like to do is just thank Alice, because some of you may or may not know that Alice is going to be off at the end of the year for a period of time looking after a new baby. So she's done a lot of work over the last year or so since joining the team, but she will be back, and I've told her she's got to be on the end of a phone just in case. So we won't be losing all the knowledge that she's built up. But thanks for all your support over the last year or so.
Thanks, Steve.
Likewise, it's been really enjoyable, Alice, and I want to send my congratulations to you and you're starting a new family. Really look forward to catching up with a coffee and meeting your new child.
Thank you. I'll be coming to you two for a break, I think.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm not babysitting.
Just quickly from me, so it's James there here. Yeah, so first I caught the back end of that session and I'm gutted I missed all of it, but we need to do more of that, Dave and the team. So let's bring more of the stories that are really hit home when you look at what's important to how we operate. I think, and then secondly on that, thank you to everybody in the community. This is really, really important. We keep doing this and discussing many different topics and learning and growing as a community. So we need to do more of it and share it across all of the functions, not just manned services and the rest of the team. And then finally, Alice, do enjoy the time off. It won't feel like a rest, but thank you for all the help that you've given the team and certainly my function as manufacturing services. As I mentioned to a few people, we close out this year in a safer position than we did last year, and we've got to keep doing that year on year. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, pretty much on time. So unless anyone has anything urgent, speak up now. I wish you all a happy Christmas and speak to you in the new year. Thanks,
Cheers, Dave. Thanks, Alice.
Same to you. Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.